For 21 days, Gabriel screamed in silence, not because he was weak, not because God had abandoned him, but because something ancient, something with teeth and a name and a hunger older than empires, had wrapped its will around him like a fist closing around a throat, and it would not let go. He was carrying a message, a single divine message, and it took 2 archangels, a 3-week war, and a prophet bleeding from the knees to get it through. What kind of entity can detain a messenger of God? What lives in the dark between prayer and answer, feeding on the static? The answer is in the book of Daniel. And once you understand what you're actually reading, you will never see this world the same way again. Section 1. The Prophet in Agony. 536 BC. The Persian Empire stretches across the known world like a bruise that never heals. Daniel is old now. He has survived the destruction of Jerusalem, the Babylonian exile, the lion's den. He has outlasted every empire that tried to break him. But the vision that comes to him now, this great conflict of waters and darkness, shatters him in a way that conquest never could. For 21 days, Daniel does something desperate. He strips away every comfort his body knows. No meat, no wine, no oil on his skin. He lets himself wither. Skin cracking, body hollowing out, until he is nothing but a raw nerve pressed against the floor of heaven. He is screaming into the void, begging for an answer about the fate of his people. And here is the horror. On the very first day, God heard him. On the very first day, an answer was sent. But that answer never arrived. Section 2. The Wounded Messenger. 24th day. Daniel stands at the Tigris River when reality begins to tear. He looks up and sees it. A figure, robed in linen, belt of hammered gold. But the description in the text is designed to make your mind buckle. Its body blazes like polished metal inside a furnace. Its face is a storm of lightning, frozen in flesh. And its eyes are not merely glowing. They are twin singularities of burning flame. Twin voids that consume light instead of giving it. Its voice is the sound of 10,000 screaming mouths pressed into one. The men standing beside Daniel don't see it, but they feel it. Something, a psychic shockwave of pure wrongness, seizes them. They claw at their own faces. They run. Daniel is left alone, and he collapses. "No strength was left in me," he says. "My radiant appearance was fearfully changed." His blood turns to ice water. He falls face first to the ground, paralyzed by the crushing weight of what stands before him. This is Gabriel, the messenger, the one who stands in the presence of God. But look at what this entity says next, because this is where the horror lives. "Fear not, Daniel. From the first day that you set your heart to understand, your words were heard, and I have come because of your words." Day 1. The prayer reached heaven on day 1, but the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days. Let that land. Every second, Daniel was starving on that floor. Every cracked lip, every hollow prayer, every moment of crushing silence that felt like abandonment. This being was already fighting to reach him. Section 3. The Prince of Persia. Who, or what, is the Prince of Persia? Not a king, not a general. No human monarch could stop an archangel. This prince is something else. A territorial entity. A sentient predator fused to a geopolitical domain, feeding off an empire's shadow the way a parasite feeds off a host's blood. It didn't want to destroy Gabriel. It wanted to contain him, to hold him suspended in that no man's land between heaven and earth, to drain him, to erode him, to buy time for whatever dark architecture it was building inside the Persian court. 3 weeks. Think about what was happening on Earth during those 3 weeks. Political decisions were being made. Alliances were shifting. The fate of the Jewish exiles, whether they could return to Jerusalem, whether the temple would be rebuilt, hung in the balance of human history, and in the invisible layer just beneath the skin of that history, an archangel was being slowly suffocated. The battle wasn't fought with swords. It was fought with will, with spiritual mass. A 21-day siege where the fabric of existence itself was the battleground, and the messenger was losing. Section 4. The Warlord descends. Then the stalemate broke. Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, Gabriel says, because I was detained there. Detained. Not fought, not challenged. Detained. The word implies something more terrifying than combat. It implies that the Prince of Persia had become a cage, a collapsing pocket of corrupted will, and Gabriel had been inside it for 3 weeks, slowly being consumed. Enter Michael. His name is a war cry, Mi-Ka-El. Who is like God? A rhetorical question with only one answer. He is not a messenger. He is heaven's weapon, the commander of divine armies, the being that Scripture elsewhere shows hurling the dragon from the sky. Michael's arrival wasn't a rescue mission. It was the deployment of a different order of force entirely. He drove himself into the conflict like a divine wedge, not to destroy the Prince of Persia, but to become a living wall of counter-pressure against it, buying Gabriel just enough room to tear himself free. It took 2 of heaven's most senior archangels to deliver one message through one layer of corrupted space. How many layers are there? Section 5. The Endless War. Gabriel delivers his prophecy, empires rising and collapsing, centuries of blood laid out in terrifying detail. But before he leaves, he says something that destroys whatever comfort you might have rebuilt. Soon I will return to fight against the Prince of Persia. And when I go, the Prince of Greece will come. No one supports me against them except Michael, your prince. This was not a singular event. There is a Prince of Greece already coiled around the next empire, already feeding on Alexander, already warping what will become the Hellenistic world. The Prince of Persia wasn't an anomaly. It was a feature. The Apostle Paul would later name this architecture openly. Our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against rulers, against authorities, against the powers of this dark world. Territorial predators, apex intelligences of pure corruption, assigned to the shadow governments of every major civilization in history. An ecosystem of dominion structures layered invisibly over human empires, breeding in the space between geopolitics and divine will. Daniel 10 is the oldest surviving blueprint of how this system actually operates. What this means, did Gabriel lose? The text is careful. It doesn't say defeat, it says detained. The mission succeeded. The message got through. But the cost was immense, and the architecture it revealed is worse. This story shatters the idea that divine power is absolute and instantaneous. It reveals something far more unsettling, that the war for our reality is a grinding, draining, ongoing campaign. That delay is not denial. That the silence between a prayer and its answer might not be empty. It might be a battlefield. Daniel's prayer on day 1 launched the missile. His 3 weeks of agonized persistence were the fuel that burned it through enemy territory. The question, the one that should follow you out of this video, is this: what is feeding on your empire? If this pulled something loose in you, if you felt the shape of this hidden world click into place, subscribe. Turn on notifications. Because the Prince of Persia had a name, and it wasn't the only one.